Hello there. My name is Jordan Kerrigan, a doctoral piano pedagogy student at the University of South Carolina. Have you been looking for a slow, expressive piece to play in the classical style, which will work on touch, balance, and voicing, all of which that will pique and retain the interest of your students with both its musical content and the historical background of its composer? Being primarily a composer for string instruments, Joseph Boulogne, Chevalier de Saint-Georges, composed Adagio in F minor for the pianoforte, and it is one of the few works of its type he wrote for the instrument. For the student, it has a special type of classical era intimacy and introspection we find in middle movements of sonatinas, but with a unique catharsis that is difficult to find in works from the time period. And the technical requirements are not terribly steep for them to get it under their fingers. For teachers, this is a wonderful standalone work similar to Mozart's Rondo in A minor, K511, but without near as steep as a learning curve that can supplement slow movements in sonatinas or other movements. There are many benefits this piece can offer students pianistically and artistically while also being a fantastic addition to a teacher's repertoire toolbox. And there are three main features that allow for this, those being: one, a reasonable technical requirement for a high quality piece that can acquaint them with more similar advanced works afterward. Two, a beautiful cantabile melodic line with soft, subdued accompaniment. Three, it's a great introductory piece to teach students tasteful musical expression within the classical style. This work only has a handful of technical requirements for students. They should be able to play scalar passages in the keys of F minor and A flat major. They should be able to play blocked and parallel thirds in those keys, and they should also have the ability to play basic ornaments, the two of which in this piece being trills and grace notes. In the left hand, students should be able to arpeggiate basic triads, mainly with primary chords and some non-primary chords. And they should also be able to play blocked octaves, however, it would be appropriate to turn these into single note bass lines for smaller hands. To show an example of this piece with all of these elements included, here is the second phrase of this piece. The only real technical challenges that will present themselves in this piece are those that the student has little to no prior experience in, but they've decided to undertake this piece anyway. The teacher should go into it in that case knowing the student will likely not be able to readily tackle all of the aforementioned technical challenges. The best recommendations I can offer to solve any issues regarding technical limitations with this piece are ones generally used with other pieces similar to this, such as foregoing ornamentation, isolation of the hands, and playing similar repertoire at easier levels, and so on. The most striking features of this piece are its beautiful cantabile melodic lines and its gently moving accompaniment. One interesting thing to note with the melody and the accompaniment is that as the right hand has more sustained passages, the left hand will be more rhythmically involved with arpeggiated triads and so on. As the right hand is more involved rhythmically with repeated notes and scalar passages, the left hand will be more sustained. Overall, though, assuming technical limitations will not be an issue, the student can begin getting into the nitty-gritty with voicing, accompaniment, and shaping and phrasing almost immediately. However, those have challenges in and of themselves. For instance, take this passage in the B section. Just how amazing of a contrast is that when comparing it to the opening melodic line in the minor key? The biggest difficulty you'll have with this piece, with the melody and the accompaniment, is proper balancing of both. Because the right hand is the melody, with the left hand being the accompaniment for essentially the entirety of the work, while this makes things relatively simple, the difficulty here lies in being able to retain the different use of arm weight and gesture consistently for the entirety of the piece. One go-to strategy I use with balancing and voicing is ghosting. That is, playing at various degrees of key depression in the quieter voices. So in this piece, the left hand. To do so, have your students play at different percentages of key depression or ghost percentage. This can also be supplemented with a heavy touch right hand and light staccato left hand to connect the sense of the arm weight and touches between the hands. Eventually, you will want to work on using proper legato motions and touches all throughout these passages. For more efficient learning, I recommend using these tools while learning new notes rather than attempting to master specific passages, as these sensations will carry over into new sections while being retained and refined in the previous ones. If done well, this piece has potential to be one of the best works a teacher can offer their students to teach them appropriate shaping and phrasing within the classical style. The melodies are beautiful, the accompaniment is sparse, the textures are thin and transparent, and there are just enough ornaments placed tastefully throughout this piece. But to play it effectively, there are many stylistic considerations to make as well. The most difficult aspect of this piece, in my opinion, is to convincingly use stylistically appropriate choices and expression while retaining a delicate, refined touch. To show the difference in sound, here is the same passage played, first in what I would consider a stylistically appropriate way, followed by one that is not. The most immediate strategy you should use with your students is with the repeated notes and blocked thirds. With the repeated notes, these should be taught with gestures, as students will be prone to go up and down and therefore make them bangy. Here is a bangy version and a gestured version. To voice the top of the thirds, I recommend doing something similar to the previous strategy of balancing the right and the left hand, but this time solely in the right hand. Play the thirds with a heavy top finger while lightly releasing the staccato at the bottom. This is difficult to do with the gestured motions, so up and down motions will work just okay for now, only just to feel the sensations. Lastly, with repeated notes, the students will need to have their fingers against the keys at all times to control the sound and gently feel increased pressure when shaping, as you saw in the previous segment. As for the remainder of the piece, other than strategies to specifically target repeated notes and voicing thirds, there is no easy way to address this other than experience and feedback with the students' choices over time. Shaping and phrasing is going to be a challenge with this, especially since the loudest dynamic indicated in the piece is mezzo forte. Here is an example of taking a passage too far, and another example of a passage that has proper shaping and phrasing in this style. So I hope you've taken away something from this video and found some interest in this piece. Included in the About section is a link to a full performance of it by me. I also encourage you to look into the life of Saint-Georges, because while a fascinating musical figure in classical music, there was much more to his life than music, of which being one of the first Western European classical composers of color, and another being an important figure of an anti-slavery movement in Europe. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and thank you for watching.